They say love finds you when you're not looking. For me, it came wearing an old hoodie, holding a chipped coffee mug, and asking if he could sit at my table because the cafe was full. His name was Darren. And from the moment he smiled, it felt like the loneliness I'd worn for years melted off my skin. He was kind. Thoughtful. The kind of man who remembered your coffee order, texted goodnight without fail, and listened when you spoke like your words mattered. After my last heartbreak, the one that left me afraid to even hope again, Darren felt like safety. Like something I didn't know I still deserved. We dated for 8 months before he proposed. It wasn't flashy, just us, under a rusted gazebo at the park where we'd first kissed. He looked nervous when he held out the ring, but his voice didn't shake. "I don't want perfect," he said. "I want you. Messy. Real. Forever." I cried. Not just because I loved him, but because no one had ever chosen me like that before. The wedding was small, beautiful. My dress was lace. My father cried when he walked me down the aisle. And when we exchanged vows, Darren looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that made sense. "In sickness and in health," he said, with his hand wrapped tightly around mine, "I'll never leave your side." Back then, I believed him. 3 months after the wedding, he started getting tired. His skin lost color. The hospital visits became routine, and the word renal failure entered our vocabulary like a thief. He cried one night, really cried. Said he was scared. That he didn't want to die. That I was the only good thing in his life. And something inside me broke open. I offered to get tested. Not because I had to, but because I loved him. When the results came back and I was a match, the doctor raised his brows, surprised. Darren cried again, this time holding me so tightly I could feel his heart pounding against mine. "You saved me," he whispered. "You were worth saving," I told him. I thought we were writing the kind of love story people envied. The kind that survives pain, sickness, and everything in between. But some stories are written in pencil. So they're easier to erase. The doctor smiled gently as he read the results. "You're a perfect match." I should have been relieved. But in that moment, my heart beat louder than joy. It thudded with fear. Fear for Darren. Fear for myself. Fear that if something went wrong, I'd lose him. Or maybe pieces of myself. Still, I didn't hesitate. This was love, wasn't it? Choosing someone else's life over your comfort. Saying yes, even when your body whispered no. The morning of the surgery, he held my hand tightly in the hospital bed. He looked pale, his lips cracked and his eyes hollow from weeks of dialysis. "I can't believe you do this for me," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. I kissed his forehead. "You do the same for me." He didn't answer that. I told myself it was the nerves. The hours after the operation were a blur of beeping machines, aching ribs, and drug-laced dreams. I woke up in a fog, groggy, pain pulsing through my side like slow thunder. My mother was beside me, brushing my hair back, murmuring prayers under her breath. She looked worried but proud. "You did a brave thing," she said. All I could think was, "Is he okay?" He was. The nurse wheeled me into his room 2 days later. Darren looked better already, his color returning, his voice stronger. When he saw me, tears filled his eyes. "You really did it," he said, voice breaking. "You saved me." He pulled me close, careful not to touch the dressing on my side, and we cried together. That moment felt holy. Like we'd been through war and came out stitched together stronger than ever. We joked that we were officially organ-bound. He said we should get matching tattoos, 1 heart, 2 kidneys. We laughed. We cried. We healed. Slowly. Together. But then the visits started to change. He grew distant. More tired of me than of the pain. He no longer checked my scar. No longer kissed my forehead while I slept. The gratitude turned into quiet coldness, like he was already forgetting what I gave up to keep him breathing. I blamed it on the meds. The depression. The recovery. But in the silence between our conversations, something inside me whispered. He got what he needed. My body was healing. But something between us had started to rot. And deep down, I was afraid I'd given my kidney to a stranger wearing my husband's face. At first, it was little things. He stopped texting me during the day. Stopped asking how I was feeling. Stopped noticing when I winced while bending to pick things off the floor. I told myself he was tired. That recovery was hard. That maybe he just needed space. But space turned into silence. And silence. Into absence. Some nights he wouldn't come home until after midnight. He'd claim it was his old friends catching up, or that he went for a clearing walk. I wanted to believe him, God. I tried, but every excuse came wrapped in the same cold tone. Detached. Disinterested. Like he was talking to a roommate, not with a wife. There was no more, babe. No more soft hands brushing my hair back at night. No more warmth behind his eyes. Just a man. Occupying a space where love used to live. The worst part? He never fought with me. Not even once. I almost wished for an argument. At least yelling meant he still cared enough to feel something. Instead, he gave me emptiness. The bedroom was the hardest. We hadn't made love since the surgery. At first, I assumed it was pain or fear, but weeks turned into months, and intimacy faded into a ghost neither of us acknowledged. One night, I finally asked, "Do you still want me?" He stared at the TV and mumbled, "You're tired." "I'm tired. Let's just sleep." Sleep became his favorite escape. Mine was crying into my pillow when he couldn't hear me. I started tracking his behavior. His calls were secretive. He changed his phone password. He'd come home freshly showered, yet still claimed he'd just been out with the guys. My body felt colder beside him than it ever had under anesthesia. Still. I waited. Still. I hoped. Because surely, a man you gave your kidney to wouldn't be capable of betrayal. Right? But I was about to learn that sometimes, the person you die for is the same one slowly killing what's left of you. I never meant to hear it. I was cleaning out the laundry basket, sorting through the mess of his work shirts when his phone buzzed on the dresser. He'd left it unlocked, maybe by mistake, maybe because he stopped caring. The message preview lit up the screen. "Jake, be honest, bro. You married her just for that kidney, didn't you?" Him. "Don't say it out loud, man." I froze. Literally froze. The shirt in my hand slipped to the floor. I wanted to believe it was a joke. One of those stupid things men say when they're trying to impress each other. I wanted to believe he'd reply, "Of course not, I loved her," or "Don't be disgusting." But he didn't. There were more messages. "Jake. A whole organ, bro. And you got it for free. Wild." Him. Not completely free. I had to pretend for a while. Pretend. That word rang in my ears like a scream. Suddenly, all the cold nights made sense. All the distance. The apathy. The lack of guilt. I wasn't losing him after the kidney. I never had him to begin with. He'd planned this. Or at the very least, accepted it. Our love, our vows, the surgery, it was a transaction. A trade. My organ for his survival. My heart for his convenience. I stood there, staring at the phone, my own pulse screaming in my ears. How do you confront someone who's already taken the most unreturnable part of you? That night, I said nothing. I served dinner like always. Laughed at his dry jokes. Watched him eat with the same mouth that used to kiss me softly. And I memorized every detail. Because heartbreak wasn't just sadness, it was clarity. And now. I saw everything. I waited until the house was silent. No background noise, no television hum, no distractions. Just me, him, and the weight of truth between us. He was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone like nothing in the world was broken. Like he hadn't cracked my soul open and scooped out something I could never get back. I saw the messages, I said, calmly. Too calmly. He looked up, blinking like I'd disturbed a nap. What messages? Jake. The kidney. The joke. I paused. Was it a joke? He didn't even flinch. There was a long silence. Then he sighed. And said the words that broke me completely. I mean. You were in love with me. What was I supposed to do? Say no? My mouth went dry. You let me cut open my body to save you, I whispered. He shrugged. I needed a kidney. You offered. I didn't force you. You lied to me. I gave you a marriage. A couple years. That's more than some people get. I think that was the moment something in me died. Not because he admitted it. But because. He didn't even seem sorry. No shame. No regret. Just a man who got what he needed and was tired of pretending. You used me, I said, blinking hard. He stood and walked toward the hallway like our conversation was just mildly inconvenient. I survived. You got to be the hero. Call it even. Call it even. I gave him my body. My love. My future. And he called it even. I stood in that living room, my chest hollow, my spirit shaking. The person I loved never existed. He was a mask. A need. A lie with a heartbeat. And the woman I used to be? She had died on the operating table. And this was what lived in her place. I wish I could say I packed my bags and left with dignity. That I walked out strong, head high, like the heroines in those movies where betrayal makes you beautiful. But that's not what happened. What happened was I crumbled. The days blurred. I stopped eating. My body, already weakened by the surgery, began to scream in ways I couldn't ignore. The fatigue was a monster that lived in my bones. My chest ached not just from heartbreak, but from something deeper. Physical. Dangerous. I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got here. Wondering if I would ever feel whole again or if I had unknowingly given away the part of me that made life feel safe. One evening, I collapsed in the kitchen. Just dropped. I remember the cold tiles. The sound of my phone clattering beside me. The taste of metal in my mouth. My body had finally done what my heart had been doing for weeks. It gave up. I woke up in the ER. Alone. Hooked to machines. And it hit me harder than anything else he didn't come. The man whose life I saved. Didn't even ask where I was. I stared at the fluid dripping into my arm and thought, this is how women disappear. Not with screams. Not with blood. But with silence. With fading. A nurse held my hand that night. A stranger. She looked at me like I mattered. She said, you've been through something cruel. But your body's still fighting. That means you're not done. And maybe that was my turning point. Not rage. Not revenge. But that whisper of a truth. I deserved to live, even if he never loved me. He came back. Of course he did. With flowers that wilted before they reached my door. With eyes that tried to fake sorrow. With lips that formed the words, I'm sorry, like he hadn't rehearsed them 100 times in the mirror. But it was too late. He stood at the doorway of the hospital room, the same room he never visited when I collapsed. He looked around like he was lost, like this sterile space had swallowed the woman he once manipulated. But I wasn't lost. I had found something in the silence of those nights alone. In the gentle hands of nurses. In the sterile beeping of machines that reminded me I was still here. Still alive. Still mine. He said he didn't mean to hurt me. I looked him in the eye and said nothing. Because what is there to say to someone who used your body like a spare part? Who treated your love like a contract with fine print? I had given him a piece of myself, literally. And all he gave me in return was a story I wouldn't wish on anyone. Maybe he came back because of guilt. Maybe because people started asking questions. Or maybe just maybe he realized what he lost when I stopped waiting. But none of it mattered anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just turned my head to the window and said softly, "Goodbye." He stood there a moment longer. Then left. For good. Some say strength is loud. Mine came in the quiet moments, the four-drip, the cold food tray, the slow return of my smile. I'm not the same girl who gave away her kidney for love. I'm the woman who learned that sometimes, love is not about holding on. It's about letting go with grace. I gave him life. But in losing him, I finally gave it back to myself.